Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. And yesterday I was actually looking at on Elofont. They do statistics about all sorts of things, including champions and items that have win rates, popularity, all these types of things. And I was looking at the list and saw some items that were. I was looking specifically on the item page and items that were unpopular, items that aren't bought very frequently. And these are items that if somebody buys it in game, a lot of times you'll kind of get yelled at or be trolled at, or they just don't tend to work very well, or they tend to be noob traps in terms of people who buy them aren't necessarily strong players and they just don't really understand what they're doing and what they could be doing better. So anyways, I wanted to do a video and talk about these items, explain why they're bad, and explain what could be done to make them better. Because some of them kind of suck, and one of the interesting things we've seen in the beginning of Season 4 is there's literally been like a core group of items that are extremely popular. If you look at, like AD carry items have always been the same. You've got Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Static Shiv, Last Whisper. That's the core for any AD carry. But even for tanks, you've got Sunfire Capes, Spirit Visage, Randuins. You're going to see those three items on almost every tank. Jungle items, everybody's getting Ancient Golem. Mid lane items, everybody's getting the Themes and Holy Grail. Death Cap, Sonya's Void Staff. They're just our core items that almost everybody buys, but with some exceptions. But some of these items kind of branch away from that a little bit, and I wanted to talk about them. So, first of all, let's look at each one of these items and kind of see why they're bad and what can be done to improve them. And just so you guys know, any of these item statistics were taken from Elofont, so you can find those there. First up, we have Runaan's Hurricane. This is an interesting item. It kind of was introduced, I believe, at the beginning of Season 3 alongside the Ravenous Hydra. And the basic idea with these two items, and I think Static Shiv might have been there as well, but it kind of gives champions a wave clear through itemization is kind of one of the nice things about this, is it turns somebody who is very single target focused into somebody who suddenly has a little bit of area of effect damage. Now, both Static Shiv and Ravenous Hydra have become really, really good items, very useful in their respective classes, but Runaan's Hurricane is almost never seen. And the biggest kicker here is that it's a ranged-only item, so the biggest, I guess, group that you're going to appeal to would be ranged marksmen, because these are champions who are ranged, so they can actually use it, and they are auto-attack based, so they fit perfectly, because the item is going to give you attack speed, and it's going to make your auto-attacks branch out into 3. However, the real problem with this is that it is 110% outclassed by Phantom Dancer and Static Shiv in terms of comparable items. Even Blade of the Ruined King is just flat out better. And really, this item, it gives a ton of attack speed, I believe more attack speed than Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv, but it doesn't give you any crit percentage, so it doesn't really help you out in terms of an AD carry to pair alongside with your Infinity Edge. And really the only time you'll see Hurricane is on an on-hit type build, where you want to spread your on-hit out, maybe on Kale or Teemo, but it's such a niche set of champions that can actually take advantage of this that it just doesn't seem to work very well. So what I would do is, you can keep the passive as is, but I would just add some crit chance and maybe take away some attack speed. If you lower it, I believe it's 70% attack speed, if you just lower that to 40 or 50%, give it 15 or 20% crit chance, and I think this item would actually be really, really interesting. As an alternative, in some ways it would almost be identical to Static Shiv, and so maybe there would be a little too much overlap there. But still, you have to make this item appeal to ranged AD carries if you want it to be viable at all. And not having any crit percent chance really hinders it, in my opinion. Next up, we have Frozen Mallet. Now, Frozen Mallet you'll see from time to time, but I'm going to argue that Frozen Mallet is actually a pretty bad item, and here's why. And I'm somebody who has built Frozen Mallet quite a bit in the past, because I've really liked the concept behind it, but I found that it is actually a deceptively weak item. So first of all, it is a poor mix of statistics. It just is not that gold efficient compared to other tank items. You're getting health, attack damage, and the passive component, and those stats on its own aren't necessarily that good. You don't have any resistances, so as a tank item, it really isn't that great. If you contrast it with something like Sunfire Cape or Randuins, those items on their own make you really tanky. But Frozen Mallet is going to require you to also get another armor item or another magic resist item in order to really maximize that health, because health on its own really isn't that good. Health is only good when you pair it with a lot of resistances. So the statistics on its own aren't that good. Also, it has a pretty poor build path. Now, they changed it. It used to build out of Phage, but now it builds out of Giant's Belt and Ruby Crystal and a pickaxe. And so none of the build path gives you like a useful intermediary item. Whereas if you look at some of the other items like Randuin's, you get both the Giant's Belt, which is the same as Frozen Mallet, but then you get the armor component. Forgetting what it's called right now. But that armor component is almost just as good as the Randuin itself. So when you make the jump up, you're not, it's not this massive jump forward. You're already really good against auto attack based champions because that's what Randuin's does. But in Frozen Mallet, you don't get anything from its build path until you complete it. So until you complete it, you're not actually getting that much out of it. And also, I would say that the passive is deceptively weak. A permanent slow with your auto attacks seems like it would be something that's really, really good. However, a lot of times, if you're in a position to slow someone indefinitely for like 5-10 seconds out of a team fight, you might as well just go with a better item like Randuin's or Blade of the Ruined King. There just are a lot better choices in terms of items that have a slow that lasts for a couple of seconds, and a lot of times those slows are just plain better. Because the kicker is that if this passive was really, really good, and if this item was more gold efficient, everybody would get it, and then everyone would be constantly slowed. So by allowing you to permanently slow someone indefinitely with every auto attack, you kind of are forcing Frozen Mallet to actually be weak. Now, how would I change this item? First of all, I think that the slow needs to be changed a little bit. This whole just having the concept of a perma slow through itemization is a noob trap in and of itself, and it's something that's difficult to balance because, if this is a strong item, then everybody's just going to buy it because, it's like if you get ahead and you get a Frozen Mallet, think about top lane. If you get ahead and you buy an early kill and you itemize towards a Frozen Mallet, there's nothing that your opponent can do because you can just kill them every single time they come back to lane because once you get on top of them, they're never going to get away. So, I would change that to something that's a little bit more balanceable. Also, I really think that Frozen Mallet needs some resistances. Any sort of tank item, if you look at the best tank items, they combine health and resistances. That's always the best way to go. So that would be my choice towards balancing Frozen Mallet to a little better place. Next up, we have Atma's Impaler. Atma's was really, really good for a period of time, but they nerfed it back down. And the basic idea here is that you're helping bruisers who are gonna build a lot of HP naturally. You're gonna help them scale their damage. Scale their tankiness into damage. So they're buying tankiness, and then they're going to get damage subsequently from that. But the core problem here is that, this is just a bad idea. Having champions that are tanky and deal a lot of damage are problematic. I've seen posts, and I'll probably make a video on this on another time, by some writers just saying that this is just bad design. Champions that, you either have tanks or you have assassins, but champions that are like the perfect mix of tank and assassin are always going to be problematic and difficult to balance. One of the core things in League of Legends is that there should be counterplay. So, if you buy tankiness, you shouldn't be that scary in terms of a damage dealer. But on the other hand, if you want to deal damage, you should buy damage. But the idea here is that you're kind of cheating the system by buying tankiness and scaling that tankiness into damage. But another core problem that Atmos has is that it gives you crit chance. It gives armor. It gives the passive, which both of those are great, but then it gives this weird 15% crit chance. And the kicker here is that this is so few champions can itemize optimally for this. So the optimization would be health and crit and AD and armor. Like that's just such a weird mix throwing crit into there. The only ones I could think of would maybe be like Gangplank or Garen. And both of those champions really aren't extremely strong right now. So, there just aren't a lot of champions who really want health and crit chance. Usually crit is a great for marksmen who aren't going to itemize defensively at all. So, personally, I think the biggest thing here would be to take out the crit chance and just give it something else that's good for bruisers or tanks, maybe a little bit of health on its own to scale its passive even better. I don't know. I don't exactly know what it would be, but, taking out the crit chance and giving something more useful would definitely put Atma's into a better spot. And then last up, I have Sword of the Divine. I actually think Sword of the Divine is a pretty cool item and something it's pretty solid. Like, I think it's kind of like the AD version of Deathfire Grasp. It turns almost any champion into like a one-shot. You're capable of one-shotting somebody. But the thing with Sword of the Divine is that it is so binary, meaning that, when you use the active and you get the kill, it's awesome, but when you don't, and if it fails, then this item is almost worthless, and you're paying all the stats for absolutely nothing. And even on its own, like all it gives is attack speed without the active, so you're basically just buying this item for the active, and that just makes it a very weak item. It needs to stand more on its own without the active. This item is too dependent on its active. If you look at other items that have really good actives, like Zhonya's or Deathfire Grasp, whatever, those two are probably the biggest ones that come to mind. They're really great items on their own. They give really valuable stats. If you think about an AP carry, a lot of ability power, a lot of armor. Those are good stats on an AP carry. Deathfire Grasp, a lot of ability power, a little bit of cooldown reduction. Also really good stats. However, with Sword of the Divine, the base stats on its own aren't really that good without its active. And also, it's kind of a weird item because a lot of champions who want to, burst somebody down, we're looking at like assassins. And these assassins are generally AD casters that aren't relying tremendously on their auto attacks to put somebody down. If you look at like Zed, Kha'Zix, Talon, even maybe Rengar, they have spells to blow up an AD carry, not necessarily, auto attacks. They're not champions that are going to build a lot of auto attacks. Based towards their auto attacks, they're more going to build flat attack damage and armor pen so that their spells scale better into late game and deal the damage to one-shot the carries. So it's kind of a weird item in that regard as well. But personally, I think that maybe if it gave a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of attack damage, maybe a little bit of armor pen, maybe cooldown reduction, stats that are really good on these types of champions, this would be a really good item. And then if, with its active component, this is a really cool active. It's high skill cap, high reward. There is a little bit of punishing going on if you use it poorly, so definitely have to take advantage of it well. But I think there's a lot of potential to make Sword of the Divine a cooler item to use. So anyways, those are my opinions on items that suck and what can be done with them. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If there's any other items you think I could have talked about, feel free to leave that below as well. Maybe we can talk about it in the comments section. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.